everyone. So we start with the price elasticity of supply in AP Microeconomics. So today I'll be doing price elasticity of supply. All right, so as I discussed in demand, price elasticity of demand, that elasticity is nothing but degree of responsiveness. Elasticity means degree of responsiveness. Right. So it basically means that by how much. Now, in price elasticity of supply, it basically means that by how much the supply changes with a given change in price. So if let's say price changes by 2%, then by how much the supply changes, that's what price elasticity of supply gives us. So if quantity supplied changes by, let's say if there's a 2% change in price and quantity supply changes by, let's say, 2%, then we get a certain elasticity to which I'll be coming to, right? So how to calculate elasticity of supply? All right. So what you really have to understand is the concept of elasticity, right? The elasticity means whether we are talking about demand elasticity, whether we are talking about supply elasticity. Elasticity basically tells us that by how much there is a change in a certain variable when there are changes in prices, right? When we are talking about the price elasticity of demand and supply. Okay. All right, so coming to the formula, so the price elasticity of supply is given by your percentage change in quantity supplied divided by your percentage change in price. So going back to my earlier example, if I say, so my percentage change in quantity supplied was 2% and my percentage change in price was 2%. So you cancel these out, you get 1. So in this case, in this particular case, the price elasticity of supply turns out to be 1. All right. So, but what you really have to remember is this formula, that it's percentage change in quantity supplied divided by percentage change in price. All right. Okay, so I'll give you another example. If let's say you are given different quantity supplied at different prices. So let's say you are given 4 with price 4, the quantity supplied was 1. With price 6, the quantity supplied was 2. Right? So if I have to calculate elasticity with this, it would be what? So percentage change in quantity supplied. So how do you calculate percentage change in quantity supplied? It would be your original quantity, right? It would be the change in quantity that has happened, right? It's just how you calculate simple percentage change. So the change in quantity that has happened from this to this, so that's 1, right? 2 minus 1, that's 1, divided by your original quantity, that's 1, into 100, right? Okay, and then divided by, you will have percentage change in price. Percentage change in price is what? 6 minus 4, that's 2, right? Divided by the original price, which is 4, into 100. You just calculate this, so that's gone, that's gone. You get 1 by 2 out here, so that's 2. So you get 2 as an answer. So 2 is your price elasticity of supply out here. All right. So either in AP exams, you will be given percentage changes, or you might be given these numbers, right? And from these numbers, you calculate the percentage change in quantity supplied and percentage change in prices, and then you divide the two, you get your answer in terms of what's elasticity of supply is. All right, the price elasticity of supply. Okay, so just like the demand had five types of elasticity, similarly, supply also has five types of elasticity. All right. So, okay. So the first one again is nothing but I'll start with, perfectly elastic supply. Now, perfectly elastic supply basically means that with a given change in price, so with a given change in price, the quantity supplied changes by a huge, huge quantum. It changes by a huge, huge quantum. So your elasticity of supply is equal to infinite here, right? So whatever be the given change in price, the supply changes by a huge, huge quantum. So now in this case, if I draw it, right, that's quantity supplied and that's your price, then it would be a horizontal line parallel to x-axis. That's your ES equals to infinite. So with a very little change in price, the quantity supplied changes by a very, very large quantum, right? That's perfectly elastic supply. Okay. All right. So all these five types actually I have also covered in the demand elasticity, demand elasticity of supply, and it's very much similar to that. It's very, very much similar to that. It's just that instead of demand, we have price out here. Sorry, we have supply out here. That's the only difference, right? So if you go back and just see my price elasticity of demand video, you will find it, right? You will understand it better. So I highly recommend watch that video first and then come back to this video. Okay. All right. The next one is the second one is, let's say, price elasticity of supply being elastic, highly elastic. Now, in this case, it basically means that with a given change in price, the change in price, with a given change in price, there is a larger change in quantity supplied. So whatever be the, let's say, percentage change in price is given to us, let's say it's given now to be 2, the percentage change in price in quantity supplied is larger than 2%, right? So if it's larger than 2%, then we say that the supply elasticity is elastic. So in this case, the elasticity of supply is greater than 1. And yes, so every elasticity, whether I talk of demand elasticity or whether I talk of supply elasticity, we always take the absolute value, right? That's why these two bars. The absolute value meaning that it has to be a positive, that we take a positive number. All right. So in this, if I draw the graph, it would be something like this. Quantity supplied, and here we have the price, and so with let's say with a given change in price, this much is the given change in price, let's say, so that was P0 and this is P1. The quantity supplied changes by a very large quantum. So the curve would be a flatter line, right? So you join these 2 points, you get the supply curve to be much, much flatter in this case, right? That's your supply curve. So here the elasticity is greater than 1. All right. Okay. Let me go down a bit. Now the third one is more of a theoretical one, right? I mean, in everyday life, I really cannot say that for these quantities, the elasticity would be this. So the third one is unit elastic. That basically means that the elasticity of supply is equal to 1. So exactly equal to 1. So whatever be the percentage change in prices, that matches the percentage change in quantity demanded. So in terms of the graph, it would be something like this. So it would exactly be the same distance. So if this is 2% change, right, then assume this to be a 2% change as well. So you join these 2 points. So it will be a 45-degree line, right? So your supply curve would be something like this. All right. Okay. The fourth one is when I say that the price elasticity of supply is less than 1. So that basically means that the supply is inelastic, right? So in this case, what happens, whatever is the percentage change in price is, that percentage change in price is more as compared to the percentage change in quantity supplied. Let's write percentage out here, right? So if the percentage change in price is, let's say, 5%, then that would be higher. So the quantity change in quantity supplied would be less than 5%. Any number less than 5%, right? Here I'll take, let's say, 4. Okay. If that happens, if the percentage change in quantity supplied is less than the percentage change in price, we say that the elasticity is inelastic. All right. Okay. So in this case, if I draw the graph, it would be something like this. That's my price. Now in this case, the percentage change in price is way up as compared to the percentage change in quantity supplied. So the supply curve would be a much steeper line in this case. This change is larger than this change. All right. Okay. All right. So you really have to understand the shape of the supply curve and what does it mean when I say that the supply is inelastic, elastic, perfectly elastic, unit elastic, and the fifth one that I'll be talking of is perfectly inelastic. In this case, the supply curve would be equal to 0. Sorry, the elasticity would be equal to 0. So it basically means that whatever be the given change in price B, the percentage change in quantity supplied is 0. It does not change at all, right? So in this case, the graph would be something like this. So I have this price, let's say my quantity supplied at this is at this point. If I have price this, my quantity supplied is again at the same point. If I have price this also, then my quantity supplied is again at the same point. So basically, I get a vertical supply curve. So at every point, at every price, my supply is unchanged because the change in quantity supplied is 0, right? So my supply remains the same for any price in the market. That basically gives us the supply curve being vertical, that is parallel to your y-axis, right? Okay, so these are the 5 types of price elasticity of supply. I'm repeating it again. It's very, very simple and it's almost similar to your demand elasticity, right? Okay. All right. Then we come to what are the determinants or factors affecting your price elasticity of supply, right? These also are very much similar to the determinants of, price elasticity of demand. So that's why I'm highly recommending go back to my video of price elasticity of demand, its determinants, and then come back to this video. It will be very easy for you to understand. All right. The first factor affecting it is time. Again, right. Okay. So the shorter the time you have, short time means that a producer actually cannot make resources available very easily, right? You cannot build a factory in a day or two, right? You need time for that. So the shorter the time, and if you cannot build a factory, you cannot have production. You cannot have production, you cannot actually offer your goods for sale, so your supply cannot increase. So the shorter the time you have, the more inelastic the supply is. All right. So if you have very short, as a producer, if you have very short period of time in your hand, you really cannot change your supply because you will not be able to arrange for all the resources in that short period of time, right? But if you are given, let's say, a longer period of time, where you can actually just fetch for all the resources you want at a reasonable rate so that your cost doesn't go up and things like that, so obviously you have more elastic supply. You can increase or decrease your supply accordingly, right? But here, if you have very short period of time, then whatever resources you have and whatever you can arrange in that short period of time, you have to go with that supply only. You really cannot increase or decrease your supply according to the market demand. Whatever is there, yes, you just have to deliver that. All right. Okay. The second factor affecting the elasticity of supply is your, again, availability of resources. All right. So if, let's say, that you don't have lot of available resources, right? So if you don't have lots of available resources, that makes your supply inelastic. Because again, the same reasoning, you really cannot change your supply, right? If you have limited amount of resources, you can only supply the production that can happen with those limited available resources, so your supply remains inelastic. You really cannot change your supply according to the demand. Even if the demand is higher, you are restricted to supply only that much because you have only those available resources to you, right? But if there is no resource constraint, right? So if there are no resource constraint, if there are no constraint sorry if there are no constraint on the resources, right, then you can actually increase or decrease your supply accordingly. So if there's a higher demand in the market, or you see that the prices of certain products are going up, you can actually increase the supply. If you think that the prices are going down or lower demand, you can obviously decrease your supply in the market, right? Because it's not, your supply is not dependent upon your availability of resources now, right? So there are no constraint on your resources. You have enough resources to use when the prices in the market go up, so you can increase the supply. You have enough resources not to use those resources, right, when there is the prices of certain products that you are supplying goes low in the market, so you can constrain your supply, right? So availability of resources and time are the two important factors that we actually do in AP Microeconomics for your price elasticity of supply, right? And that's it for price elasticity of supply, right? But okay, the other two elasticities that we have to do are your income elasticity, right? And your income elasticity and cross price elasticity, right? Okay, so these two elasticities actually I have discussed in my earlier videos, right, in detail. And I have also done some questions on these two elasticities. So go back to my channel and just go back a bit, and you will find, or just search for these two elasticities, because they're already there on my channel, right? So I would highly request that go back and do these elasticities as per the AP microeconomics course. So I'll not be posting again, right? I'll not be uploading these videos again because they are already on my channel. But for the entire curriculum to go in a flow, right, this is what I had to do next. And I would highly recommend that you do these two from my earlier videos. So go back to my just explore my channel, just type for these two elasticities, you will find it. All right, so in my next video I'll start the curriculum after these two elasticities, what's there, and that's basically market equilibrium. All right, thank you so much and have a good day. Bye bye.